We now have Super Typhoon Bavi, and it is taking aim at Taiwan. It currently has wind speeds of 178 miles per hour. That's sustained, with wind gusts up to 218 miles per hour. And its central pressure is about to drop below 900. It's currently at 901 millibars. This truly is a super typhoon. We may see a very cool weather pattern ahead for the east as we move into the third week of July. Not all models agree, but the GFS continues to give us this solution. And if we do get this type of pattern, this could mean a ton of rainfall for the central and eastern US while the west stays dry. We've also got some excessive rainfall risks out here across the mid-Atlantic. You can see a moderate excessive rainfall risk today and then a slight tomorrow. And I do want to touch on the severe weather threat today and over the next couple of days as well. It's July 5th, 2026. Let's get into the weather updates. I do want to start with Typhoon Bavi, or Super Typhoon Bavi. This typhoon, as I said in the beginning of the video, is no joke. It's expected to remain a Category 5 typhoon for an extended period of time here. You can see it looks like we might get some weakening as it approaches China, Taiwan. This thing could curve up to the north too and take aim at portions of Japan, potentially southern Japan. We still have a little bit of time. Taking a look at the spaghetti models here, it does still look like we're going to be approaching land as we get out towards July 10th, July 11th. So 5 to 6 days. And a lot of these models have this still as a major typhoon. We're talking Category 3 or stronger. Some of these even have Bavi approaching land as a Category 5. Unfortunately, these waters are very warm. There's really no shear out ahead of this system. But as you can see, over towards land, there is a lot of wind shear. And eventually, this typhoon will encounter some of that shear, and that will help with the weakening. It'll likely enter some cooler waters too as it treks a little bit further to the north. But in the short term, I wouldn't be surprised if this remains as a Cat 5, like the models are suggesting. It could go through an eye replacement cycle, weaken a little bit, re-strengthen, but this storm right now looks like it's going to try and break records. And we know what's happening in the Pacific right now. We're entering what could be a strong or super El Nino. So with these type of water temperatures, who knows? We honestly could see historic numbers from this typhoon when it's all said and done. It is not common to see a central pressure drop below 900 millibars, and this storm's about to do it, and it's still strengthening. Okay, we have a really strange weather pattern continuing to show up on the GFS. And now some people don't love the GFS. They really just want to look at the Euro. Some like to call it the global fantasy system. But guess what? The GFS gets things right sometimes. So we have to actually take this seriously, especially considering it's continued to show the same solution day after day after day, which is a weird big cold blast that pushes in to the eastern US as we get into the third week or end of the second week into the early third week of July. We're seeing a pretty nice trough digging into the east. Now we're talking about July 13th. Okay, so this isn't crazy la la land. We're talking about just over a week now. The GFS continues to see this solution. We're out at around 170 to 180 hours now, and you start to see all of this cold air beginning to sink or funnel into the east. This looks like a wintertime trough, and this would be in mid to late July. It's very confusing. Why is this happening? But this would also lead to a significant heat dome across the west. You could see a large high pressure here if we do get this troughing out to the east. What would that mean? Dry, hot conditions, well above average conditions across the west, potentially for an extended period of time. This also could mean a lot of rainfall for the east and potentially some severe weather too, which I want to talk about. And again, not all models agree, but the GFS continues to show this as an option. And by the way, the Climate Prediction Center does expect cooler conditions out east as we get into the second half of July and much warmer conditions out west as we get into the second half of July. Now, although they're not yet showing below average temperatures out east as we get into the third week of July, they're starting to show a lot of heat out west, and you can see those average temperatures returning to the east. If we continue to see these model trends, I do think we may actually end up seeing something from the Climate Prediction Center where we have below average conditions possible across the entire, really potentially eastern plains all the way out through the east coast as we get into the third week of July. And this is from the Climate Prediction Center for the full month of July. You can see they're signaling some sort of cool air or some sort of relief. Looks like it may be pushing in from the north. Again, if the GFS continues to show this pattern, I think we're going to get some updates to these maps and we're going to see some cooler conditions starting to show up out east from the CPC. So I was just talking about it. What could this mean too? Troughing in the east with a ridge in the west? Well, lots of heat out west and dry conditions. This is over a span of like 12 days and we barely have any rainfall out here. And look at the east. We are underwater with rainfall with this type of setup, especially potentially essentially along the coast here. So here's what this looks like if it happens. We have a nice zonal flow from our jet stream, some short waves developing across the country here. Over this week, we could get some severe weather out in this region. We're going to continue to push forward, and then something starts to happen here. You start to see a kind of ridge developing here, a large high pressure developing over the Rockies, and then you're going to see our jet collapse over the east. Let's move this forward a little bit here, and this is the 12Z of the GFS. There we go. Large amplified trough digs into the east. Our ridge becomes even more robust, and cold air collapses out east. Now, it's summer cold air, so no, it's not, below freezing air, but for this time of year, it's cold air. Now, here's my concern. Okay, so we know this would be a really nice cool down for the east, especially near the hottest part of the year, which would be great. Unfortunately, that means a lot of hot weather for the west. But my concern with this type of setup would be if we have some decent blocking up here, like a negative NAO up around Greenland, and we get a stalled out front here, we could get days and days and days of rainfall across the southeast, Georgia, Alabama, potentially southern Mississippi, Louisiana, through Florida, the Carolinas, and up through the mid-Atlantic, coastal New England. Watch what happens here as I move forward on the latest GFS. This is far out. Things could change. I just want to show you what's a very interesting pattern that keeps showing up. Look at this stall. You can see this jet kind of stalls out here, and this would continue to pull moisture up the coast here. And this is the type of thing where you could see kind of record amounts of rainfall if this does happen. This is almost 5-6 days potentially straight of heavy downpours up and down the coast here if you get this type of stalled front off the coast. So something to watch. Again, though, it's not close enough to have any sort of certainty that this pattern is going to happen, but we're seeing this continuously show up on models. So the algorithm's catching something that is signaling this. By the way, here's the AI GFS, and why this is an interesting model to look at is this model doesn't really look at the physics of what's going on and say, okay, I'm going to put this into my equation and here's what could happen. The AI GFS model actually says, okay, what are the conditions right now? And the thousands of times in the past we've seen something like this, what usually does this lead to? What usually happens when we have this type of pattern? And the AI GFS says, well, what usually happens is we get a big collapsing jet out east, tons of cold air out east, a lot of hot air in the west, and potentially a stalled out front. So the AI GFS is saying, hey, I've seen this before. This is what it usually leads to. It's not actually applying any physics. That's just how the AI models work, and they do a pretty good job. So it's not certain, but it's definitely something to watch. We could see a really wacky weather pattern as we get into the second half of July. Before I wrap up this video, I did want to touch on the fact that we have a moderate risk for excessive rainfall today out through portions of eastern PA, northern New Jersey, the Hudson Valley, New York City. So make sure if you're in a low-lying area, flood-prone area, you have a way to receive weather alerts, and just make sure you're paying attention today. We also have a slight risk for excessive rainfall out here in the same area tomorrow. So again, keep those alerts on. We do have 3 different slight risks for severe weather today. These are wind and hail driven. The most significant threat today out here through portions of the mid-Atlantic, we have a 30% chance for strong to severe thunderstorms that could produce damaging winds. No tornado risk zone from the Storm Prediction Center today. Doesn't mean we couldn't see one. It just means there's no area that has a 2% or greater chance of seeing a tornado. A few marginals tomorrow, nothing crazy. And then as we get into our day 3, I think we could actually potentially get an enhanced up here to portions of the Dakotas, Iowa, Nebraska, Minnesota. We're going to have to watch this, but I'll talk about this more tomorrow. I really appreciate you guys watching this video. If you like this type of content, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you're notified anytime I go live or post a new video. I also have an awesome weather Discord that I update every single day with all the latest weather news, like all the stuff I talked about in this video. If you want to join, the link is in the description right down below, and it is completely free. And if you want to support the channel more, you can always check out some of the merch on ConnorsClimateCorner.com. Again, I appreciate you guys watching, and I'll see you in the next video or the next live stream. See ya.